Again, good evening, and welcome to the creative writing portion of the Undergraduate Virtual Open Day for this Tuesday, 29th April 2025. And here we'll be talking about our creative writing undergrad certificates and diplomas. We have creative nonfiction, fiction and writing for performance, advanced fiction and writing for performance, and advanced creative nonfiction. So hopefully you're here and in the right place. If you find that you were looking for another course, you can go back to the main room and you'll see the list of the breakout rooms. And also keep in mind that because this is recorded on all of the sessions, all the breakout rooms are recorded, then you can always look back and find some of the other information that you may have missed by being in this space with us this evening. But we're going to be talking about the courses that we have, and we'll talk about what it's like to study with us. You'll have a chance to ask some questions, but also to hear from our student rep, Lucy, and she'll be able to share her experiences on the course and hopefully answer some of your questions as well. And we'll do introductions. So, hello, I am Yvonne Battlefelton, and I'm the Academic Director of Creative Writing. I support and look over our undergraduate courses, so our certificates and diplomas, and also our master's courses in creative writing, writing for performance, and our postgraduate course in teaching creative writing. And we are joined by Midge. Midge, did you want to say a quick introduction as well?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Hello. So I've been working at the Institute for a very long time and actually helped to set up the certificate and the diploma. And I used to be academic director, so I kind of know all of the programs, I think. So I'm very happy to be here.
I love how you said kind of, as if you haven't been like a crucial part to all of the program and to its successes. So, but thank you. And Lucy is here. And Lucy, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, of course. So, hi, my name's Lucy Marty. I'm in my second year as a student with ICE. So, last year I completed the diploma in advanced nonfiction, and I'm currently in the middle of the diploma in advanced fiction and writing for performance.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so you heard recently about the format of our courses. And so this in this session, we'll just focus on creative writing a bit more specifically. So you might be asking if a certificate or a diploma, like which one is right for you and how you might know these. So the certificate is the first level, and you might be new to writing, or maybe you've written fiction and you want to explore creative nonfiction for the very first time. A good place to start would be or could be the certificate. On the course, you have the opportunity. It's sort of like an introduction to the tools of creative writing. And this might be character and how you develop the character. It might be the use of setting. Some of our students are interested in writing historical fiction, so that might be kind of an introduction to some of the research, introduction to reading about these different things and reading as a writer. And it might also be helping you to generate ideas. Mostly, it seems like it's a chance to develop confidence as a writer and some competencies. So, what are those skills that it might take for you to craft something right to a deadline? And you would be very happy to know if you're deadline driven like I am, that there are several opportunities to write to a deadline throughout the course. And those would be through the workshops, the Saturday day schools that include workshops, but also through writing exercises that you might do after the seminar. We have weekly seminars and they're online. So after that, you might try one of the writing exercises of something new that you explored. And it might also be through the assessment. So you will have an assessment after each term, which is an opportunity to try what you've learned and get really valuable feedback on it, and also a mark that lets you kind of know how you're doing with the development. A diploma might be right for you if you have some experience already with creative writing. Maybe you have written a blog, or maybe you have some of the tools and some of the strategies, but you want to further develop and you're not yet maybe yeah, you don't yet have confidence or experience in maybe editing or engaging the research into what you're writing, or even thinking critically about your writing. So that's in the first year, you'll do an assessment, which is creative, but in the diploma, you do both the creative and also a critical reflection of your writing process. And this might be a chance to explore some of the changes that you made in the work based on feedback. It might be a chance to consider how the piece is developed from idea to the final page, or even how you were influenced by something that you read. If you're not sure which one is right for you, the admissions team can help you to explore that. The diploma part, you would fill out an application, which we ask for a writing sample. And I typically would review the writing sample and the application, and then I can often make a decision based on the writing. If you are not yet ready for the diploma, then I would say I'd recommend the certificate. And if you are, quite ready for the diploma, then I would recommend the diploma. So there are, I think, those sort of mechanisms in place to help you know and decide which course is right for you. So if I were to think about who our creative writing courses are for, because creative writing is like, it brings me joy. It's one of those things that it makes me a happier person. It's how I navigate the world around me. It's how I make sense of some of the things that I might be seeing or feeling or wondering. I ask questions through writing. Some of those questions are, what's the worst that could happen? What could go wrong? I would like to say that I write things like, how can this go right? But I don't. I tend to be curious about the things that break and the ways that we fix them, and things like representation. And I feel like everyone has a story to tell, and I like to empower people to tell those stories. So when I think of who our creative writing courses are for, I think it's for everyone. For people who were told, no, writing is not for you. For people who were told, you don't have a right to tell a story or no one wants to hear it. And also for people who grew up reading and writing and tumbling into stories and always wanting to know what's going to happen next. And for people who knew they were going to be writers from the age of 5 to people who decide they're going to be writers at the age of 75. If you are wanting to learn to strengthen your writing or to start writing, we have different courses for different levels of writing ability. And so for me, I would say it's for a wide range of people. We have people who are in retirement writing for the first time or switching careers and different paths. So my answer would be that yes, creative writing is for everyone. When I look at the benefits and the outcomes for the courses, of course, success looks differently for different people. Some of the benefits might be, I think one of the best benefits is developing confidence in your writing, feeling like you can now tell the story that you want to tell, write the story that you want to write for the audience that you most want to reach and most want to touch, and that you're writing things that you, as the writer, are interested in exploring. Another benefit is a sense of community. Often as writers, we write alone and maybe edit kind of in isolation, but it's not a sole experience. It's not just you. It's your book and the stories that you want to tell and the forms you want to tell it, ideally for a reader. And it can be hard work doing it alone. We hear a lot about rejections as a writer, and there's, rejections through your career, and having a supportive network that knows how it feels and can encourage you to continue writing. I feel like it's a lifelong benefit. So one of the benefits will be confidence, another will be networks, another will be you hear a lot about the writer's toolkit. And that's as much about what you put into it as it is about knowing what you need out of it. So some of our students work together to develop an anthology. For some, it means changing career paths. For others, it means submitting for publication. It might be magazines, it might be writing books. Some come on to do our master's programs. Others transfer to universities or to other programs like the Open University. Some go on from certificate to diploma, on to writing for our masters. Some might apply for a PhD down the road. So there's not one clear set of experiences. But in terms of what you will learn, it will be to support in generating ideas, writing ideally engaging or interesting stories, short stories, um, novel extracts, writing for performance. If you're doing creative nonfiction, you'll explore travel writing, writing memoir, writing about place, which means that you'll have tools with setting, you'll develop some research, you'll develop the ability to edit your own work and provide feedback to other writers. So you're engaging in that sense of community kind of every step of the way. What is it like to study with us? It's online, predominantly online, and it'll be 2 hours a week in the evening. And it's typically the same day of the week. So it might be 7:15 to 9:15 every Monday for 9 weeks. And throughout that term, you'll have Saturday day schools. There's two a term typically, and they are usually 11 to about 4. From 11 to 1, it'll typically be a guest speaker, and those will be someone with industry experience who might focus on a really interesting aspect of writing, something that they're really good at. It might be someone who, if you're in fiction and writing for performance, maybe this person has written a play, or maybe this person is writing historical fiction or fairy tales. If you're in nonfiction, we've had someone who came in recently and they were doing travel writing. So we have someone who's like they're a specialist in that field and they're also currently actively writing, which means that they bring their experience of being accepted, of generating ideas, writer's block, developing a piece, rejection, like all those things of being a writer that we all experience. They bring that knowledge to the session. And then the second half of the Saturday day school is typically a workshop. For the workshop, some of our students, this is their very first workshop, and some they've, experienced them in other places, maybe university, maybe in a community setting, maybe with friends or at a library. But the workshop is a chance to you submit some writing. There will be a word count, there will be a deadline, so you'll know when to submit it, you'll know where, it'll be online in the VLE. You will submit it to a small group. The group will read your work, you'll read their work, and they will give you feedback. Feedback for a writer is a gift like no other. It's a group of people who want the best for your work, and they come to it asking questions and perhaps providing, they may ask questions that lead you to solutions. They may sometimes offer things like, have you considered this? Or they might say, have you read this thing that's similar to what you're trying to do? It's a really valuable part of the course. And ideally, over the year, you will get stronger and stronger at how you receive feedback and decide to use it, but also how you give feedback and explore how you give it. So there are writing exercises. Typically, the tutor will give you a writing exercise. This is the weekly writing sessions, and you can put those on the VLE, and you can get feedback from peers, which is great because, again, you're building community, but you're also giving them feedback. There will be reading, and the reading is typically something that will either align with something that you're writing or learning that week. So you'll read something and then maybe be encouraged to look at the dialogue. How is it working? Where, what might you change? And then you'll have an exercise around dialogue, which is another chance to explore this technique and consider how you use it in your own work, and also question how you read it in other works that you read. This goes into developing that sense of community, which is on the VLE, which is our virtual learning environment. And on that, you kind of use it to get information and also to um, give out information. We put things like the writing exercises, the reading, the all of the module work is on there, but also events and news. We put that on the VLE. And each term, as I said earlier, you have an assessment, and the assessment will focus on something that you've learned in that term, and you'll submit that, get feedback on it, have a mark on it, and have a chance to use that feedback to apply it to the next assessment, which allows you to have a sense of progression in how you tell your story. The stories that you're encouraged to write are stories that ideally you would want to read for the target audience that you would want to write them to. So now, so this is the what's it like to study in the course? And Lucy, I'm going to ask you if you could share your experiences and yeah, I'll leave it to you to answer that kind of how you will. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Yeah, no problem. So what's it like to study on the course? So I'll try and answer some of Dave's question while I'm talking as well. So thank you for that, Dave, giving me a bit of a prompt. So in terms of studying, so each term is 8 or 9 weeks long. And during a 9 week term, we have 26 hours. Have I done that maths right? Yeah, 26 hours of face-to-face interaction. And for me, when I applied here, that was really what drew me to this course rather than doing something that's more kind of self-study without too much kind of virtual FaceTime. So every week we have 2 hour lectures, which are in the evenings UK time. And that's where we kind of explore ideas with the tutors. They will focus on, so for example, this week I'm doing the writing for performance module at the moment, which is the final module of that course. So this week we were focusing on writing short film screenplays. So we had a guest lecturer in for the first half of the session, who was a writer and a director of short films. And then we had our regular tutor for the second part. And then so we did that this week, and then next week we'll be focusing for a couple of hours on writing radio plays. So it's kind of a new topic, or a kind of an extension of the previous week's topic every week, that we get time, kind of face-to-face time with the tutors. Also, as Yvonne says, and one of the things that has really been most valuable for me is the workshops in the Saturday sessions. So 2 Saturday sessions a term, and they're 4 hours, 11 till 4, but we do get a lunch break, which I usually need to stop my head from completely spinning. But the great thing really about the workshops is we split into smaller groups. We have feedback from the tutors, so we submit some work in advance. They have a chance to take a look at it, and they will give their feedback. But also, because we post it on the VLE, it's open to the rest of our class. So in the small group, the rest of the class will also give feedback and have a discussion. And so for me, I've always taken pieces into the workshops that have been drafts of my assignments. And so having that advanced feedback, and not just from the tutors, but from my peers, has been so useful. And to be honest, is really one of the reasons I was doing the course in the first place, because I think as a writer, it can be quite an isolated kind of job. Or, I mean, it's not my full-time job, it's just something I do as a hobby. But so having that kind of expert feedback, but peer-to-peer feedback and discussion has been so useful in developing my style, developing my ideas. I usually come into a session with specific questions on, does this dialogue work? Does this plot line make sense? Whatever. So that's been one of the really great things. And also just the people that I've met, not just the tutors, but the other students. So from the course last year, from the non-fiction course, we have a little writers group still. And some of the tutors from this course help us out with some of that as well. And, we get them to come along and kind of workshop with us and things like that. So it's kind of carried on an informal basis, even though we're not in the course anymore. So yeah, I hope that helps answer some questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Can I
Sure.
ask you, if you could tell us about, do you remember what it was like when you first started? Do you remember what you might have been like worried about, or and if the thing that you were worried about has have you answered it? Or I'm always like interested in when I hear of students or potential students and they're on Twitter and they're going, I'm 28, have I missed my chance to to write? And then someone's like, I'm 48, I'm 58, I'm 78, like is it too late to write? And I'm always thinking, please don't ask Twitter. But so if you remember what was maybe your concern, and then yeah, have you answered it yet?
Yeah, so I think my initial concern was the writing that I'd done most recently was very academic. So when I started on the nonfiction diploma in 2023, I'd completed a master's 3 years before in behavioral science, because obviously, and so my I'd written kind of I was practiced at writing at length, but in a very, very specific academic, scientific based style. So I think the thing that I was most worried about was, could I translate that over into a more creative writing style? Because even though it was nonfiction, so obviously you are writing about things that are factual people that exist. So I don't know whether the course has been the same this year, but we had a term focused on people, a term focused on places, and a term focused on objects. So even though you're writing about real things, you're not writing in a, you're not providing a thesis on research on that particular object or subject. So that's what I was most nervous about, I think. Um, and I was nervous about that really through till probably the first workshop, because that's when I really got the first feedback and things kind of started to come together or not. And although there are absolutely points for development made, by and large the feedback was popular, and I could also see what other people were writing. And I know, you always say you shouldn't compare yourself to other people, and you probably shouldn't, but it is useful just to see, okay, my peers are writing this kind of thing, I'm writing something similar, I must be on vaguely the right lines. And then I think, so having that, so it being non-fiction did help. And that's why I did that course first. And then coming into the fiction course, I was concerned that, again, I wouldn't be able to translate the non-fiction writing into something that was kind of completely imagined. But in the end, I think, I mean, dialogue is I guess for me has been the most difficult transition from one to another. Um, and that was a concern, but I think it's been okay so far, I hope. So I think if you're open to feedback, you're willing to learn, you don't get necessarily too discouraged with points for improvement, because generally speaking, people aren't going to come out and say this is a pile of crap. They're going to say this is, maybe have you thought about this, or everyone is very positive is the thing. Nobody is going to tell you you shouldn't be there, because if you have got onto the course, then you should be there, right? So yeah, I think it's totally fine to have worries, to have concerns, to go in it a bit nervous. I think everybody does, even if they're quite experienced. Because you just don't know. You don't know what the standard is until you kind of get here. But don't let that put you off, that nervousness. If you have nervousness, don't let that distract you, or detract from your application, or how you go about kind of pursuing the course if you do decide to.
Thank you so much. Can I ask you if you had I mean that was great advice right there. Um And I'm just curious about if there is somebody and they're thinking, oh no, I'll be the oldest one or I'll be the youngest one. What sort of advice might you give them before they consider, like, or before they either talk themselves out of, going,
Yeah,
or they are work talking themselves into going?
yeah. So the course last year, the nonfiction course, I was probably in the middle. So I'm 44, and I would say I'm about in the middle of the age range. So I think the youngest person was about 23 because she not long since finished her undergrad degree, and then the oldest was about 80. So we had a huge range of people in terms of age, in terms of experience and background. We had, a few people in the middle like me who work full time and do this kind of on the side as a hobby. We had people who were just really starting out from uni who weren't really sure what path they wanted to pursue, so we're trying a few other educational sort of tracks to see what they wanted to do. And then we had people who had retired from all sorts of jobs, retired teachers, retired the oldest lady was a retired stage manager, not necessarily a writing career. And so I would say that their age absolutely isn't a barrier. I mean, maybe if you're 12, then perhaps not. But if you, as long as you're an adult, age is absolutely not a barrier. It's the willingness to put in the work. And if you believe that you can do that and you believe you have the capacity to be able to do that and to kind of attend the lectures and keep up with the work as you're going along, then don't worry about how old or young you are. It's irrelevant, I would say.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's okay, we may have some questions for you later.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to, so we have some questions that were submitted already, and I'll go through those and try to give you some answers. But I wanted there was a question or a thing I put on there for me about some of the writing exercises. And I just wanted to give you kind of an example of them because either I zipped through it or I deleted it. Oh, sample writing exercise. Yeah. Um, so I just wanted to give you a kind of a sample writing exercise that I might use in like one of the courses. So for creative nonfiction, um, one of my favorite exercises, some of them are playing with poetry, and it's because poetry, we are really concise with our words when we're writing a poem, and it allows us to explore and express our ways to our target audience. So sometimes I might use poetry as a way in for helping students consider a writing, like to generate ideas. But one of my favorite writing exercises for creative nonfiction is a project that I call the Museum of You. And in this exercise, I encourage students to think about an object that means something to them. It's something that they either purchased or made, or maybe it was a gift. Somehow they acquired it, but it has some sort of meaning to them. And then the question is to explore what this object says or suggests about you. So this is using creative nonfiction. And for this, they are descriptive. So I encourage them to use descriptive language where they might go through the senses. So using all of the senses first, how might you describe this object? And then you give them, a few minutes to do that. And then we go from the description of it to the storytelling part of it. So using the elements of a story to explore what this object means or suggests or shows other people about you. It's a reminder that sometimes objects carry their own story, and it might be a story they bring to us or one that we create along with it. And other people think they know us by this object. They might be right, they might be wrong, but it's also a chance to consider things like how we perceive other people and a reminder that other people and other objects have stories and everyone has a story to tell. And sometimes we just have to listen. So that's an interesting creative nonfiction exercise, and I've seen some fantastic touching pieces that are sparked by this idea of an object and what how they'd like to be remembered, not necessarily for a eulogy, but just when they leave the room, how do they want to be thought of? So in this, we also think about the target audience. So who are they writing this for? Who do they want to tell this description to? And it varies if you're telling it to a child, if you're telling it to the students in the room, and we don't have the benefit of being maybe where they are at that time, then there's certain things that they have to say to help us to see the object in the same way that they do and help us to experience it or feel what they want us to feel. So it's a nice exercise to prompt a new story. It might prompt some research because people want to remember where did they get it from, how much was it, how do they use it, where is it now, and so the story behind it might give them some space to do some research, and it might take them off into a completely other story just inspired by this object. For fiction, one of the things that I like to do, like early on, is an information interview. And this is a chance for a couple of things. So I'll usually walk us through a series of questions where they are meeting a character either for the first time or a character they might already be writing something on, or someone they're just curious about. And through that, we go through a series of questions, and it starts usually from the external and then works its way inward. So it's kind of, you don't get a lot of time to answer these questions, and that's partially because it's a chance to just see what's the first thing I might be curious about. Sometimes to lead into it, depending on how long we have, we might use pictures. So like I love looking at pictures from National Geographic and pictures from like around the world and maybe a particular time. So I'm usually interested in like 100 years ago. And then so we'll look at pictures of that. And then places, because one of the questions is where is this character? And that's a couple of things. So where are they? Because you can explore how they get around, but you can also explore some of the tensions that they might be going through depending on when they are. And that might be political, it might be economical, societal, it might be something in the family, it might be something with health or the landscape. And if they're writing historical fiction, it's a chance to consider what the characters might be grappling with. But also, if they're writing current fiction or science fiction, it's a chance to see what are the tensions that the character would have in their day to day. Also, a reminder that history happens at different times around different places in different ways. And so, an event that affects someone in one place might affect someone else in a different place around the world in a different way. So that's one of the reasons that I quite like using this. And then from that, it's I'm looking at what does the character want? What are they willing to do to get it? And like why don't they have it? And those help to look at character motivation, natural tensions in the story, idea generation, and conflict. So those are just some kind of examples. And then from there, the student might decide to write something for the assessment or maybe for the writing exercise, or maybe the assessment is built up on their writing exercises, but it just gives them some chances to explore what they're interested in, um, and kind of why they write what they write. But to go through some of the questions that were asked in advance, I'm going to need to stop sharing my screen. There we go. So that I can pull them up.
We
Lucy,
actually we actually have our hand raised. I don't know whether you can see it from Samia.
I do, and I will get to that question just after
Okay,
I read, but thank you so much.
sure.
I'm just going to read these just in case it's similar. One of the questions is for creative nonfiction. Are references required during the application process for the creative writing course? And for the diploma, the answer is no. Is there a pathway for the creative writing program? Like after the certificate qualification, how do we move on to further qualifications all the way up to the MST in creative writing? So after the certificate, you would apply for the diploma, and in that application, you would include your writing sample, and that's what we would be reviewing. For the to move from the diploma to the MST in creative writing, you would require references and a different writing sample. And there's an interview process, which is really just a chance for us to get to know you more better, you to get to know us better, and to explore if this is the right course for you and how we can help you to develop. Let's see, there's a question for the um, fiction and writing for performance certificate. And the question is, I want to give my creativity as wide an audience as possible eventually. I'm considering Cambridge University ICE because I assume getting a good reputation within Cambridge University through my studies over a number of years may open doors that otherwise I would never know about and probably wouldn't be aware of me. Can you say anything about the value of studying at Cambridge for those of us who are committed to our art? And I would say that the value in studying at Cambridge, for anyone committed to like writing, part of it is going to be you have a great network of community, so your peers, but then also the tutors who are teaching you are published writers who are actively writing, award-winning, and really passionate about what they do and who they do it for. Also, our guest speakers are also, industry professionals, so you have access to all of that. You'll be a member of the alumni. There are also things going on like in Cambridge. So if you're in Cambridge, there's opportunities to get involved with some of the events that are, all around the city. Online, we have an online community through the Center of Creative Writing. And people are, of course, always welcome to engage with that, where we have in conversations, often hosted by Midge. We have a virtual writing lunch, an open mic, and we are always looking at ways that we can, develop relationships with communities. So hopefully that answers your question. And then the final question before we get along to the hand is, after graduating from the undergraduate diploma in creative writing, does one become a Cambridge alumni and have access to university facilities such as libraries? And the answer is yes to that one as well. And that was one of the things that Monica was explaining about. Yes, you become an alumni of the university, and you just apply for the card, for the library card. And I'm going to close that. And Lucy, thanks again for letting me know about Samia. So Samia, if you could please, I think Ella, were we asking people to type their question? Oh, and I also see other ones.
Yes, please, Yvonne, if you could type. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Samia, if you wouldn't mind typing your question into the chat, please.
Yvonne, there's one in there about the six-week course. I don't know if you spotted that. Someone saying they took the 6-week ICE VLE course and was wondering if the feedback and instructor involvement is more in depth through the certificate courses.
The 6-week VLE course.
I mean, maybe I could answer that a bit.
Yes,
So
please.
I realise that's an online course, but it also sounds very similar to the face-to-face course we used to have. And in a way, I think of those short courses as almost like a mini certificate. It's a really good way of getting into the rhythm of responding to those regular prompts. You will obviously get to know your tutors better because you're spending more time with them, and because we break into small groups when we do workshopping, inevitably some of those tutors you've met in the first term will come back and help in later workshopping. So you will get to know them really well. And I think one of the really nice things about our courses is that all of our tutors are published writers. They're all professionals. And that's not always the case with some places you might do creative writing. And I don't know how you can really teach someone about creative writing if you haven't been through the pain and the joy and all those things that Yvonne has explained to you. So I think I think all of our tutors are wonderful, and also they're very kind of honest about, writing can be wonderful, but it can also, as Stephen King says, it should be like a job as well. So part of it is turning up every week. And I think the certificate and the diploma, that I think of them as kind of literary boot camps, or kind of going to a nice gym, in that your colleagues are waiting for you to show up and they want to hear what you've got to say. So I think that there are common threads that run through all of our courses.
Thank you, Midge. And I'm just going to go through some of the questions. So Dave had asked, how big is the group that's doing the interaction? How big is the group discussing the material on a particular topic? And I would say that's probably in the workshops. And so the workshops are, I want to say about 5. I don't think I've assigned more than 6 students. I would think about 5 students per workshop. So you'll get feedback from the tutor and also from your peers. I see there's a question. Is it possible for you to enroll in another course concurrently with any of the certificate courses? And yes, it is possible to do that. I would highly recommend speaking with admissions or through to the course so that you are clear what the workload is and also about the deadlines, the assessment deadlines, so that you are giving yourself enough time to do like all of the assessments and all that you would need to do in reading, et cetera, so that you can kind of get the most out of all of the courses at the same time. There's a question, what are you looking for in the writing sample for the nonfiction diploma application? I don't think there's any one particular way to answer it. I mean, I would say like the kind of the promise of this person is, they've been doing some writing and I can see how they would develop from on the course. Um, Maybe that's like the dialogue might be really, really well developed, but the setting needs some work, or the setting and the something is really well developed, but something else needs a bit of work. And I'm looking at, okay, yes, I see the difference that we could make. Midge, how would you answer that?
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't worry about some people think, oh, are you looking for a Cambridge voice or anything like that? We're not. We're just in a way looking for kind of enthusiasm and that you've thought about what you want to do and you're kind of not starting from scratch because we want you to have the best possible time and to get the most out of the course. So it's as much for you to know that this is the right thing for you to do as trying to kind of select people. It's much more you knowing that this is how you're going to spend your time and it's the right thing for you to do at this point.
Thank you. And then there's a question. Hello, I'm applying for the Diploma Advanced Fiction and Writing for Performance. I've studied a few genres, creative writing, short stories, and poetry. Is it possible to include both in the application, or is a short story applicable? And I would say a short story. It's easier to see how it's developed as it is a short as creative writing, the fiction and writing for performance one. That's why I would say to submit your short story, or if you've written a script, to submit that. Let's see. I see Dave has another question, but I'm going to do Sarah's question. That was the 6 week one. I see Rebecca. Last year I took a 6 week. Oh, that's similar to the 6 week one. Last year, I took a 6 week ICE course in nonfiction, my very first adventure into studying in English, since my mother tongue is Portuguese. I wrote my assignments in Portuguese first and then translated them into English. Now I wonder for the fiction courses, would it be wise to follow the same path? That's a really interesting question. And if it works for you and you feel like it's allows you to tell the story, then I feel like yes. Midge, do you have a different answer?
No, I would agree with you, and I wouldn't be kind of put off if English isn't your first language because
No.
often your people who speak other languages, which I'm completely in awe of, are really brilliant at avoiding cliche. So I think it can be a positive advantage. So I would do whatever is easiest for you, and maybe you can try different things. It might be that in a way as you feel more confident, you might be ready to plunge right into writing in English for the first draft.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dave, I see you have several questions, and first going to answer some other people's. And if we don't get to all your questions, Dave, someone will be able to send you like a quick email with some of the answers. There's a question of, do the certificate and diploma applications have two different deadlines? And I believe the answer is they both have the same deadline. Midge, are you looking that up?
I wasn't, but I could do. But I think they
Oh,
have the same deadline. I will.
wonderful. Thank you. I'm sorry, and thank you, Yvonne. You've partly answered my question. Can one move from the diploma to the master's? And if so, what are the requisites to facilitate this? Some of our students do move from the diploma to the master's. It's all in the application. So you would still apply for the master's and you would submit a writing sample because the master's tutors won't have read like what you submitted, and also you want to give it, its best chance. So there's no set like prerequisite for the master. So it's not as if you have to have a bachelor's in this or a degree in that, or any certain experience. It would be down to writing experience, the sample, your references. So your references would want to speak to either your writing or maybe a project, or your maybe it's time management. Like it would want to speak to your suitability for the course and the course's suitability for you. But hopefully that answers your questions. But there isn't any one set thing. It's not like someone has to have, a first in this or a 2-1 in that. There's no set answer. On one hand, I guess that can make it a bit more scary, but ideally what it makes it is like when people feel like they're ready for the master's, they apply for it, and it's set up for to give you your best chance to show I think the best writing that you can. And I think the interview is another chance to show some of the things to highlight maybe that weren't as strong in the application. It's a chance to show this is my research project. So yes, sorry, that's another thing. You'll want to have a dissertation idea, something that you might want to pursue during the MST. And you'll articulate that in the application. So hopefully that has answered your question. As someone with a job that has a work schedule that varies each month, is it mandatory to attend all the weekly sessions and Saturday workshops? What happens if you miss any? Are materials available online? Thanks. Yes, they are recorded. So, I mean, students are encouraged to attend as many sessions or, ideally all the sessions, but life happens. And so they are all recorded. The workshops are not recorded, but the seminars and lectures are recorded. The material will be on the VLE. The workshops, you can still submit something to the workshop and you would ideally provide feedback to the peers in your group, and in that way they can still provide you with feedback. So you would put that on the VLE, and hopefully that answers your question. So in terms of what happens, there's no bad thing happens. It would be up to you to catch up and to watch the workshops, to do any of the exercises and things like that, and in that way you can keep up with the course. Um, okay, thank you. I'm currently enrolled in a certificate in creative writing for nonfiction. The experience hasn't been exactly what I was expecting, and I'm not sure how to progress my academic pathway. Would you recommend to try the certificate in creative writing and fiction? If fiction is more your form of storytelling, then I don't see why not. I started out writing fiction and then I moved over to add creative nonfiction. And kind of what it gave me was I needed creative nonfiction at that time. Like when I found that I was needed to tell stories in a different way. So that might be something like to consider. But also, if you are currently a student, drop me an email and we can have a chat about maybe ways to further develop your creative nonfiction. So if you're finding that what your marks don't really add up to the ambition that you have for what you're aiming to reach, maybe we can have a chat about like how to use the feedback to strengthen that. Sorry, I see we have 5 minutes remaining. Um, let's see. As a follow-up question, how far in advance is the course timetable published? This would be useful for managing holiday requests for specific events. In terms of when the course timetable will be published, and Midge, you can't see it that I'm looking at you, but I'm like, I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but yeah, you will have loads of time to work around holidays and things like that. And yeah, was that what you were asking me about, Yvonne? Or
yes. Oh, sorry. Thank you. And then I just saw a quick question. So I see that we only have 5 minutes. And I see the question is because I would be an international student, will I have to apply for a visa separately? But the course is online. It's completely online. So you would not neither have to or be eligible for a visa to do the online course. Or were you talking about the master's program? I don't yet see your response, but if you wouldn't mind, if you are talking about the master's program, if you could send admissions an email, or if we have your email, we can kind of respond to you through that. Um, and Mitch has typed the deadline is August 18 for both certificate and diploma to reply. Nay, thank you. So you're talking about the masters. If you can send the admissions team an email about the visa question, because some of our students we don't have part-time courses, our part-time courses are not eligible for a visa, but we do have students who study internationally, and we do have international students on the master's program. But we can have a chat about the modules and how they work out.
So
I'm
Nay,
sorry, maybe you were saying.
sorry, Nay says I wasn't talking about the masters.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I read that as I was talking about the master's. So sorry. So no, there's no visa required for it as it is all online. I wanted to see if I had time for one of Dave's questions. Is any time in the course scheduled allocated? Oh, sorry, we have 2 minutes. Um, as far as one-on-ones, we do not have one-on-ones. I do have office hours, and I typically will announce my office hours on the VLE. It's typically an hour, 1 hour a week on Zoom, and that's they're drop-in hours for anyone. And then other than that, people will email me specific questions, and then we try to do a catch-up, as and when needed. If you haven't already, there is Ella, who's our wonderful person behind the scenes, has put in the email address for if you have further inquiries that you did not have a chance to ask, or if we did not reach your question, please do email the admin team and the admissions team, sorry, and they will follow up. Um, I'm just looking through to see if I've answered everything I can in the next 60 seconds. Oh, it's because I'm seeing the answers pop up, so it's making me think. I think we've gotten all the questions. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I hope that it was useful. I look forward to, ideally welcoming you in the fall and to reading what you write. I get to know people through their writing, so I'm hoping to, to get to know you all and to meet you in those ways. But thank you so much for spending this time with us. We really appreciate it.